All right, my man, we're back. Those weeks go fast. It's because the world's on fire.
Everything's on fire, man. Everything's on fire.
Yeah. Thank you to everyone who continually tunes in. It's tumbling.
Love it.
And I will talk a little slower. I had that. I had that reminder, and it's honest criticism, and I take it to heart because it's true.
Yeah,
it's true.
We get fired up.
All kinds of stuff going on, dude. I go all over the place.
Okay.
So most recently, the past couple of days, it looks like McCarthy,
Mm-hmm.
Speaker of the House, is going to start impeachment as an impeachment inquiry.
Okay.
Formal on Joe Biden.
Yeah. I understand why, but I also am like, why? Like, what's it going to do? He's not going to actually get impeached because the Senate's not going to impeach him. Right.
No,
it's not.
It's already a non-starter for them. There's not enough Republican votes, even if the Republicans did have shot.
It's in my mind, it's political theater. It's like there are bigger problems in this country that we need to fix and solve than dealing with and wasting our energy, time, and money on this. That's just, I mean, I get it. Why they want to impeach him. Like they impeached Trump for shit. I mean, Biden's, in my opinion, done a lot worse. But like, the dude can't even put thoughts together. Like, just let it run its course and move on. I mean, that's where I am.
I think, yes, I'm right there with you.
Okay.
I'm trying to understand their motivation. Their motivation is probably out of fear that this buffoon may be there another 4 years.
Well,
that's the
true,
fear, I think.
That could be. But the impeachment, he's not going to get impeached, so he can still be here 4 years.
So it's theater.
Yeah, but my thing is, like, what we need in this country is people to come together to solve problems. And doing this shit, like this back and forth impeachment, it doesn't accomplish anything. Like, take a step back and say, what is best for the country? And let's do that. This is not good for the country.
That's a novel idea, but I mean, honestly,
I don't think it's that complicated. Happen? I mean, I don't think
it's what's best for my party.
Well, right, and that's the problem. And the party is not the country. The country is the country, and we have to do what's best for the country, and that includes all parties. And we've got to get people in there that are looking to fucking do that. Like, that's the problem I have. Like, this impeachment shit is going to waste time, money, and media attention for something that's not going to have an end result that we want. So what is the point? We know the end result we're going to get, and it's not going to be impeachment.
Right.
So what is the point? What is the actual point?
Outside of political theater or to score political points for an upcoming election.
That's it. That's all it is. Like, hey, our guys, impeached Biden.
Or tit for tat. I mean,
well, and the other thing is, too, like, people don't know the legality of impeachment. So when they hear Biden was impeached, they're like, yeah, he was. Well, was he? No, they did an inquiry. Like, you still need both houses or the House and the Senate to decide on it. It's not going to happen. So move on.
They're going to go after Garrett Marland? Garrett Marland?
Merrick Garland.
Yeah, confusing.
You had to be confused for a second. Yes.
Well, so it's Merrick Garland.
Yeah, Merrick Garland.
Yeah, the Attorney General.
Merrick
They're going to go
Garland,
after him. That's supposedly that's on the docket too. And then there's the Majorca guy who's in charge of.
There's a lot of shit going on right now. I also saw something. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals upheld the lower court's decision about how the government can't. It's against the First Amendment for the government to coordinate with social media companies on what they can and can't say. And I think they limited it to like the White House, the CDC, the FBI, and I can't remember the other one. There was 4 agencies. They said they cannot coordinate with social media companies as to what they can and can't put on their platforms. So it's a because they filed a lawsuit saying like they were withholding information, they were suppressing stories. That's against the First Amendment. The government cannot intervene in that. When they said like they were coordinating with Facebook and Twitter about what stories they could share and not share, like they said that violates the First Amendment. So the lower court had like a 10-point list that says you can't do these 10 things. They limited that list and they limited the agencies to 4. So it does it up, it's saying that they're violating the First Amendment, which is good. But it's like there's so much shit going on right now with all this like so much corruption in government is what I'm realizing on both sides. And it's like, how do we solve that problem? That's where I am with this.
So that leads me to a point that I was pondering the other night. It was, do you believe in the idea that there are a lot of good people, genuinely good people that enter the federal government, elected people, right? They enter the system as good people with good intentions, but the system is so corrupt, it gets to like 99% of them, and it over time creates a desperation in them, an addiction almost, to retain this power, retain the seats. And then they find ways to manipulate the system to keep the gravy train going. They almost lose their soul.
Yeah, I mean, absolute power corrupts absolutely. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, when you get into that position of absolute power, then you're corrupted. And that's what's happening. It's self-preservation now. Like when they may go into the government with good intentions, but when what I've seen people taste that power and the wealth that comes from it, they really fall into self-preservation mode. And it becomes this battle of how do they create enough discord in the populace to remain in power. And it's a scary time because, again, like I do believe people are good by nature, but the system corrupts them. That's what I believe.
When you look at all of let's just take the senators and House representatives. If you take all the senior members there, the ones that have had positions of power and have lasted, some of them decades.
Yeah.
Right. And to see them unwilling to let those seats go, unwilling to know when it's time. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, on both sides of the aisle, it's not exclusive to either party.
No.
That is just proof to anyone who's paying attention that power and the money that comes from it, or the protection of the corruption they've done.
Right. That's exactly what it is.
Right.
Yes.
Is what lusts them to continue.
100%. Like that is why I believe people had such a problem with Trump, because he was an outsider. He didn't need the money. He didn't need the power that came with it. I truly believe, whether you like him or not, he was doing it for the betterment of the country. Whether you believe what he deemed betterment was your betterment, that's what his intention was, and it was uncovering corruption. It was uncovering the shit in government that's always been behind the curtain.
Well,
we need to get him the fuck out.
The other side certainly crafted narratives, making him out to be a monster on many, many levels.
Right.
And he gave them fodder. He gave them food for fodder.
Like 100%. Like he gave them enough ammo to do that. But if you break it down to who he actually is as a person, like I don't think he's never drank, he's never smoked. Like, yeah, he likes women, and yes, he's had different wives. Okay, like he's married. Like
so's half of Congress.
I mean, he's been single. Like, sorry, he's a successful businessman. Like, you can't fault someone for living their life, without anticipating going into politics.
Yeah.
And like, we need people in politics that actually understand how the world works, how the world operates, how business operates. Because I think you bring fresh ideas. That's what he was bringing, fresh ideas to politics.
But don't you think at this point right now, the idea that morality was part of the equation when we chose candidates decades prior, the morality portion of the total equation is very minimal. I don't feel that the public cares really too much about that, which is reflective in society, whether it's entertainment and movies and music. And I mean, what goes on at the music awards, and how decadent it's become year after year after year in terms of being normalized.
Yeah,
we see that in our politicians. We just really don't care.
Well, but I look at elected politicians as a reflection of the citizens. Like that's who we're electing, right? People that resonate with us. So you have like
we're more coarse.
Yeah, exactly. Like morals have left the building in a lot of people. Like in today's day and age. I mean, we have social media, right? We have the ease of doing things that were decades before immoral have now become so easy and so accessible that people's like, is that immoral or not? Like people are moving that line. And so as we move the line of morality, we're also aligning politicians with that line that we elect. And so we're not looking at it the same way.
I think you're right.
I mean, that's how I view it. I mean, honestly.
Yeah, it's very uncomfortable though. And it's probably more uncomfortable for the older folks in the country who've been around long
100%.
enough to see the change.
Yeah, 100%.
But the change just keeps coming on a very rapid basis there.
I mean, today's day and age, I mean, I feel like the line of morality moves rapidly. And everybody, like I said, I've always said on this podcast, I believe in moral relativism, right? It's relative to the situation, but I feel like that band has widened so much that people take that moral relativism and utilize it to justify immoral actions.
And based upon the fact that everything's so public now, with everybody practically,
yes.
That
Exactly.
maybe that just gives the illusion that it's that the decline of morals is speeding up, when actually it's just on display all the
that
time.
Could be, you're right. Like that's the whole other side of the debate. I believe that we just didn't see it. It may have still been here in the past. We just didn't see it. Now it's become more exposed.
When we think about long-term politicians, it's almost like if you drill in and find what tends to be what should be the most obvious fault of long-term politicians, it seems to be, from my perspective, to be the lack of accountability for their actions.
I mean, that's the biggest problem in society today. No one wants to take ownership of what they do. Like that's what to be successful in anything, in politics, in a profession, in anything, you have to own it. You have to be accountable for what you do and what you don't do. And too many people, they want the spoils of war without getting any blood on them. Like that's what it really boils down to. Like they want the success. They want the spoils that come from the battle, but don't want the blood on them, because the blood is the accountability, right? I went into war. I cut some people. That blood's on me. I'm accountable for those people.
People don't even want to get dirty.
That's what I mean. Like they don't want to do that. They just think it comes easy. Like
right.
to get to the level of politician, to get to where I am, or to get to where you are. Like 20 years in my career, 30 years in yours. Like the blood, sweat. But think about it, the blood, sweat, and tears that we went through to get to where we are.
Certainly.
Like people forget about that. And I'm accountable for everything. I'm accountable for everything I do and don't do. I will own it. You're the same way. Today, I feel like the generations coming up, they don't see it that way. The politicians in there don't see it that way. It's like they want to wipe their hands of it. The good, I'll take credit for. The bad, it's not my fault. I'm going to play the victim. I didn't do that. I was the victim in this situation. Like, Trump was mean. This person was this. Like, no, you were a fuck up. How about that? Like, you were a complete fuck up. Like, and if you can't own your actions, then get out of the way.
Yeah, and
let someone else be in office.
I get it. It seems like creating an illusion is much more easy today because of social media and all the cameras everywhere and creating personas that don't exist. I mean, because think about it, we really. And it's definitely the same for our politicians. We receive an illusion, or excuse me, we receive a vision of who this candidate is.
Yep.
In reality, and maybe it always has been part illusion, but today it could be full illusion.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
The tools are out there to create a full illusion, and by the time they get in there, it's too late once we find out.
Well, and that's the problem. Again, like that's the problem with social media, right? It allows you to, but I think people have gotten better at detecting that sooner. Because I think because social media's out there so much now, people have pretty good bullshit detectors. I think so. Like,
do they use them?
Well, that's the other question. But I think people, like, I know I can sniff out bullshit pretty quick. Every once in a while, I'll get duped by someone or something. But for the most part, I can sniff out the bullshit pretty quick. I think a lot of people can do that too. But then it comes down to, do they care enough about that person or that position to actually make a change or do something? Sometimes in politics, they just don't give a shit. Like, I have people that, like, yeah, this dude's bullshitting me, not a good candidate, but I don't really give a shit. My vote's not going to matter. They don't do anything. Like, that's the problem. But you're right. Like, they do create these personas in these images of themselves that aren't crafted in authenticity.
Did you see any of the deal that the administration made with Iran? It broke the last couple days. They basically have freed up $6 billion of Iran's money, which I think was sitting in a South Korean bank or banking system.
Like that, yeah.
Under the I believe what the administration says, that it was done in an effort to create a transaction where we will receive some of our prisoners back, and then release this money of theirs, but it can only be used on humanitarian efforts. And so the Iranian government that says we'll use this money any way we want, the administration's saying no, that's not the case. So, Democratic folks will be inclined to believe the administration. Republican folks will be inclined to believe that the administration's full of shit, and they just gave $6 billion of free money back to them. The narrative's all screwed up.
Correct.
I'm trying to figure out what really happened. I don't want to. It might be a good deal for America. I just don't know because, again, we're getting multiple narratives from our news sources,
and that's the problem. Like, you and I cannot deduce what actually happened. Because
it's frustrating.
Right? It is very frustrating because to me this is a big deal, right? We're dealing with Iran,
which is a terror state.
Correct. So why are we doing that? Like, what is the end result we're trying to get? Like, we're
our people back.
Our people back. Okay, I get that, and we should do that, but we also need to understand the full spectrum of what's going on.
Consequences.
Again, correct. And the media doesn't report that. Like,
no.
One side of the media reports it's amazing. They're going to do all this humanitarian shit. The other, like, no, they're going to make bombs and blow everything up. Like, what's the real story? The truth lies in the middle somewhere, but no one's in the middle to tell the truth. That's the problem. And again, that boils down to, we need more transparency in media, transparency in government. Like, what the fuck is actually happening? And I think they do this because they want to keep us distracted.
So let's take this one example. Okay. And again, we're looking at it from a 100-mile viewpoint, but here's an example where you would think that getting the actual straight story on this to the public directly should really not be a problem. They made a deal with Iran to do these things, and Iran's going to do this. You would think that the actual document of the agreement, who is signed by both governments, the actual document could be easily broken down and explained and put out there where we could look at it and say, okay, I believe that what that paper says is what both parties signed. That was the intent, and this is what's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
So I kind of blame the administration for not being able to disseminate all that information in a way the public can consume it and then have a better understanding. We never get that. We're just told an agreement's been made and a document's been signed. What does it actually say? It may actually say exactly what the administration is saying, but you got to show me.
And the fact that they won't makes me question it.
Right. Of course.
And that's the problem.
Of course.
Right? And it may be just that, but they never show it, so it makes us question everything.
It gives the opposition to drive conspiracy theories only because the actual nuts and bolts of it aren't on display.
And again, that could be a concerted effort to keep us in disagreement so they all keep power. Keep us distracted so they all keep power. Like, I was reading something about the Roman Emperor the Roman Empire the past weekend. Like, and I knew this from being when I was younger, but like I had to relearn it. It's like, that's how sports started. Like, in the Roman Empire, they started like the gladiator fights to distract the people from what was actually going on. Then they started, the analogy was being made to sports today. And it's like, like, we have sports as entertainment to keep us entertained and distracted from what's actually going on. And I took a step back from it. And I was reading this. I'm like, holy shit. Like, like, because I remember when I used to be more into watching sports, I didn't know what the fuck was going on. Like, I was just watching, it's like, but think about it. Like, but now I'm more in tune because I'm not distracted by sports so much. But I was thinking, I'm like, and it's like stuff like this, right? Where the simple solution is show me the piece of paper. It's show me what's written on it. And they don't. They're like, one side saying this, one side saying this. So the two teams can fight and be like, we need you to stay in power. And it's just a constant battle. And it's a preservation of power. Like, it's crazy to me.
It shouldn't be hard to disseminate what actually happened in this agreement.
Correct. It's paper, it's words, read them.
And maybe take all the legalese out.
I get it.
Take it out so the average person, which is me, can look at that and figure it out and say, oh, you know what? Okay, I might disagree with it because I think it's too much money, or maybe, we shouldn't be buying our people back, or whatever my reasons are, but at least I have faith that what actually happened, the intent was legitimate.
Yes. Correct.
Just show me.
Just show me the document. Exactly right, man. It's a simple thing.
I'm not. First off, I don't think either one of us are geopolitical experts at all.
No.
But at the same time, I think the average folk, which we are certainly included in this, would appreciate having a more clear understanding of exactly what's happening with our government from the source.
Yeah, that would be nice. I would love to know that. I mean,
we rely on news media to give us all sides,
right? And it's
and
news
I get
media that's controlled by a few certain
but
companies.
Sometimes just show me the facts of what I actually. And here's an example of an agreement which has to be in writing. Hello,
I'm a lawyer, dude. That's what we do every day. Like, show me the document. Let me read what it says.
Slightly right turn here, or left turn, depending on your bent. Clint had a problem with that, right? U.S. may stumbled on the biggest reserve of lithium in the world. Did you read this? Did you see this?
Yeah, I saw something
on the
about
border
that.
of Nevada and Oregon. It's a volcanic crater, and the name I believe it's the McCormick Caldera.
Yeah, Caldera. I think it's what it's called. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, on the face of that, you would think that since this huge push toward electric cars and other things with electric, but definitely cars, that story would rock the industry. I mean, if it's the biggest potential reserve, because right now one of our biggest concerns is that China's going to be in control of those minerals, right, and change the world's tip the world's economy.
When we pulled out of Afghanistan, that's had the biggest reserve.
But if this is supposed to be the biggest reserve in our country,
right,
why is that not huge news? I had to dig for that, man.
Well, and again, I think because the news is so focused on politics right now and creating discord in the population because the elections are coming. I mean, think about it. Like, think about all this shit we're talking about now. COVID's coming back. Like, we're gonna start masking
we'll get there
again. Like they're just like, that's not. No one gives a fuck. Like, let's be real. Like, no one gives a fuck anymore. Like, you can say it all you want. People are just like, I don't give a fuck. And that's why this
probably because it was handled so poorly the first time. You know what I mean? Right?
Yes. I mean, there's so many reasons, but it's like, you look at how it lines up. Oh, like, how convenient. Like, a year before the election, we're going to start talking about COVID again and masking and mail-in ballots. And it's like kind of the same shit that happened last time, right? It happened in March and it started in October or November. Like, the first case in the U.S. Timeline's kind of fucking adding up again. We're seeing the same story. Like, what the fuck? Like, did they really think there will be people that comply? I get it. And if there are truly legitimate concerns, okay, I understand it. But I can tell you right now, people I've spoken to on both sides of this argument have said there's no fucking way.
Well, I mean, you know, they just indicted a former president 4 different times, or 5. Was it 5? I don't know. In a matter of a couple months' time.
Right.
Coincidentally, you know,
the best,
18 months, 16 months before the general election.
They said I
don't know.
I saw a video that said he is the most thug president ever because he has a mug shot. He has like 3 baby mamas. Like, they went through this whole litany of stuff, and they're like, everyone should love this guy because he is literally the most thug American president ever. Because he's just like the normal population. Like, he's done all this shit. It's like, to indict him 4 times? Are you fucking kidding me?
That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. So the idea that that powers that be on all levels, state and federal, are not acting cohesively, it's kind of hard for the average guy to believe that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
The indictments are just fucking ridiculous. Like, let's be realistic. Like, they have gotten so out of control, and I think they have backfired. The timing of them all the day after something came out about Hunter Biden. Like, it just, even if that was just a coincidence, 4 times, 4 coincidences, and it just looks bad. Like, people are over the shit. Like, I think people are starting to wake up. I think people are starting to see this is a bunch of bullshit. And the things that are happening are being created as a spectacle in a way to try and control us. Well, I think people are not going to have it.
It doesn't help that the current guy in there looks like he's trying to return soup in a deli. Every day he's just literally not there. Right?
Like you said, return soup. I've never heard that one.
Well, I mean, he's just vacant. No,
he's not there at all.
And
If you can't see that, you're blind.
Oh, I definitely think people see it, but their political allegiance will will make them blind, and I think that some on the far right, or people that are just solid right or further along the way there will look at won't want to hear any of Trump's faults. They'll make an excuse for any of Trump's faults, which it's not, and it's dangerous.
Yeah, it is.
It is dangerous.
It's very dangerous.
It's dangerous.
I completely agree with that.
It's dangerous. I want to talk about the Republican Party for a second.
Okay.
Do you feel that in the coming years, because of the changing morals of the country, but more because of the amount of illegal immigration that has happened specifically during this president's term, the amount that's come in, the influx, do you think it's going to marginalize the Republican Party? I'm making an assumption that most of the people arriving here will vote Democrat. I'm not that, and who knows if that happens. Let's make the assumption. It's probably going to happen. It's probably going to happen that way.
But you're also making the assumption that illegals are going to be able to vote. That they shouldn't be voting, but they are.
Oh, I think that if things proceed the way that they're trending.
Well, right, but what I'm saying is the fact that we're even making that assumption shows how fucked up the system is.
100%.
The fact that we're saying that we're making that assumption that they're going to vote Democrat when they shouldn't be voting in the first place.
Well, this is from the same nation that doesn't require any kind of proof that you are a citizen.
Also a problem.
Same thing. So why wouldn't I believe it?
No, I agree.
They're getting money.
Correct.
They're getting benefits. The next thing is they're going to give them the ability to vote. Yes. So is it a master plan, not to crack down on illegal immigration because it's going to help our side?
Oh, I think that's
in the coming years.
I agree. I think that's definitely part of it. Absolutely.
It's a long range plan.
I completely agree with that. I think that there is some level of planning to it and some level of conspiracy to it. But do I think it's going to change the conservative movement? Potentially. I think the Republicans have to understand conservatism has changed slightly. It's not what it used to be. The world is different.
No, there's different kinds of conservatism.
Right, and we have to adapt to it. And that's where I think we went wrong. The Republicans have went wrong as a party sometimes, where they haven't adapted. They haven't moved more towards the middle like they should. Because there's a lot. That's why
cost them elections.
I'm a libertarian, right? Because some of my views have shifted. I'm still fiscally conservative, but some of my other views have shifted more towards the middle because I've gotten older. I've gotten wiser. I look at the world differently. The conservative movement hasn't shifted with me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I think there can be that disconnect.
Well, I think there's probably a lot of people on the Democratic aisle too, your more traditional Democratic voters.
Yeah.
They can probably say that the party has moved away from us too. The party's moved very much to the left.
Yeah.
And they may feel that they've lost. Not that they're going to vote Republican, but they may feel like they're now moderate.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's Yeah, no, I agree with that. I'm just thinking through that. I mean, yeah, it's really interesting. I haven't quite, because the problem I have with the party platforms is, sometimes they're so rigid, and the positions they take are very rigid. So to your point, being, we feel we're more moderate now,
for sure.
But I think we are the majority of the party. The party isn't truly conservative.
Always have been.
And it's we have to understand who actually makes up the majority of the
Democrats
Republican Party.
can say the same thing.
It's on both sides. That's what I'm saying. It's just, but I can't figure out why there's this staunch fringe that says this is what conservatism is.
Well, I think the far left and the far right have hijacked the two major parties.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Correct. Yes.
And I
can't figure out why.
We're not strong enough in the middle to stand up to these folks.
And that's what I can't figure out. Why we have the majority. We are the silent majority. I also think it's just we just don't give a fuck. I've got other shit to worry about.
Do we also maybe have some apathy toward it because we just don't believe our angst is going to change anything?
I think that's part of it. I think some people are like that. Absolutely. I do believe that. I do absolutely believe that. But I think a lot of it is just I know myself, I'm using myself as the example, right? I'm so focused on building my business and taking care of the people that work for me that this stuff, I can't spend brain power on it and worry about it and say I'm trying to convince the far right to move more center right. It's like, I don't really give a shit.
Okay, so I think what you just explained is prevalent throughout most society.
Yeah.
And the media companies have been smart enough to figure that out. And they're thinking, well, if we make our news presentations more like entertainment, we make them more like a sitcom, or, heaven forbid we use flashy lights and, breaking news every 10 minutes and all kinds of triggers. We get people to lay on the couch and tune out of society and then tune into what we say. And they've manipulated that apathy very well. We've fallen as a society into, I don't know, and it's a great study. I can't tell you why. I get the pandemic made us lazy in the beginning because all we were doing is consuming TV. I get it, but it happened before that. We just now look to the news services to entertain us, and man, is that fucked up. That is so fucked up.
I mean, it's completely messed up, but we play right into it, and they feed us the news. We feed them advertising dollars. Like, that's what we feed them, the eyeballs that feeds them the dollars. And that's what it boils down to, because they've made the news such a sensationalism right now that of course we all want to watch. It's like we're watching a train wreck. You can't look away, and they create train wrecks to keep our attention. Because when do you see them ever report anything good, like good positive news? Never, right?
So it's funny you said that. I went to a couple of days ago to the New York Times has. I don't know if they do it once a week or they do it, maybe it's every day. I don't know. I don't get the time, so but I went there, and they have a section, the good news, and I was reading, and there was like 4 stories. And nothing, and they were you could see they were trying to find something. Nothing was really of real interest. I mean, it was, some were kind of cute and all that, but it wasn't like, I would think if you're really looking, you would find major stories that are really this lithium thing. To me, if half society's hell bent on electric is the future, you would think this is a big effing story.
You would absolutely think so. Like, I don't
understand why it's not. I mean, there's a big storm. I know so-and-so's getting indicted, and there's Hunter Biden stuff, and there's Trump stuff. But this could be, if this is as what the scientists are saying, we might never need for decades China. Yeah. If they can harvest this stuff, well, that would change everything.
Right. But here's the problem. Like, you and I understand that, and a few other people. The majority of people watching the news don't give a shit and don't understand the implications of China and all this. It's just, they see batteries like, oh, cool, more electric cars. They don't understand like what you're talking about. It, eliminates
so it won't sell to the masses.
It won't sell to the masses. That's the problem. Like, that's why you see stories like that buried, because they're there for people like us that want to read them and find the actual news, but they're not on the front page or or above the fold, because they don't sell ads. They don't get eyeballs. People are going to scroll right past. They're not going to click on it. If you take 100 people and put that story on the top above the fold on a website, I would say less than 10 click on it first.
Do you think that'll ever change, or is there a way to change?
I don't know that
the way we operate
anytime soon. I don't know that it will change anytime soon, because there's so much information out there. And people have gotten so mentally exhausted that they're only focusing on what they can relate to.
Okay, so let's take that, what you just said, because I know you said that multiple times before, which I am in complete agreement with you. We're so mentally exhausted, there's so much information, and our brains are overloaded. Yet you don't think that's a problem.
Problem how?
Well, there shouldn't be any. Let me rephrase that. You may think it's a problem. I think you definitely think it's a problem. But you believe that somehow lassoing that in some capacity would be a problem.
But again, when you say lassoing that in, like, I know we talked in the past about like limiting social media and what can and can't be said on social media. Now you're getting into the constitutional law arena, and to me, it's like, I can't. I'm a constitutional list. I can't say, yeah, you should limit what they can and can't say.
But are we going down? We'll go there again. Are we going down? If we're on information overload now, I don't think there's a point where there'll be saturation. Well, there'll be just way too much that we'll just start to tune out completely. I don't think we're going to get there. I think it just gets more and more dangerous the more information it continues to get out.
Yeah, I think
or gets created.
Yes, I think it will. Our brains adapt to certain things, right? So I think we will, as time goes on and we're fed more information on a daily basis, we will learn to process more information. Like, I don't think we'll ever get to a point of saturation where we revert back to we don't pay attention to anything. I don't think that'll be the case. What I think will happen is we will learn to focus better, because we're going to have to. Focus is going to be a necessity, not a luxury anymore.
It is now.
But right now, still people treat it like not as a luxury, but it's like, if you know how to really focus, you can be ahead of most people in the world. But I think it's going to get to a point where there's so much stuff coming at us to just operate in our day-to-day lives. Focus will become a necessity, I believe.
See,
the ability to focus.
I think in that capacity, I think AI could be wonderful, because if you could create an AI tool which could be customizable and user generated, or user specific, and a user could interface with this AI tool that kind of make them understand and disseminate what's important to them, what isn't. So they only get the streams of things that they're into, that are of value to them. Because you think we're doing that now, but I still think most folks, especially that have, like, the one social media I'm thinking of is Instagram, the way it's configured, I still think most people that use Instagram are, whether they want to admit it or not, they're getting beat over the head with a ball bat all day long with a wide variety of stuff. And they try to disseminate it, and then then the algorithm learns it, and they just get more of what they like. In huge, copious amounts.
Correct. We as people have to learn to detox ourselves. Like, that's like, we can't rely on social media companies.
How does that happen?
Well, that's self-awareness and self-discipline. Like, we have to develop that. Like I know if my brain hurts, like, I just turn off my phone or put it away. Like, I had to learn that, because there'll be times where some information is coming at me all day long, from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed. Emails, text messages, social media. Like, I like right now I know I have 75 emails from today that I haven't even read yet. They're unread that I will read after this podcast or after the show. So I think it's one of those things where it's just, there's so much. There literally is so much information coming, and I'm trying to formulate the thought and to articulate it the right way.
It takes a lot of we have to take personal responsibility for our inputs.
Yeah, we have to be able to, maybe that's the right word, personal responsibility. We can't blame media and email and all this stuff for feeding us information, for overwhelming us. We are overwhelming ourselves by choosing to click on the app.
Correct.
By choosing to open the phone. Like, we have to develop self-discipline.
Agreed.
And learn how to detox ourselves. Like, everybody has a different limit, right? Like, I know how much technology I can take. I need to know that limit. And when I get close to that limit, I feel myself like losing my shit, just gonna turn it off. Like, that's a discipline I have to develop. Everybody's gonna find their own, I think. But it is that personal response. It's a good word, personal responsibility. It is not the media companies or the technology that overwhelms us. We overwhelm ourselves by the actions we take.
Or the actions we don't take.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And we've got to learn to accept that and deal with it and move forward.
I just don't know if we are, dare I say, smart enough to protect our own mental health like that. I see us going on a very slippery slope.
I think there's a lot of people that won't do that. You're right. Like, I think, like, look, there are days I find myself where I'm like, I was on this phone way too long today. Or I was looking at social media way too long. And I know that's, I can feel my head hurt. Like, the days where I'm at the end of the day and I just have that, that lingering headache. And it's just from, like, I've been on technology all day. I've been reading information and I didn't give myself the break I need. Like, I know. So it's hard. It's a hard thing to do, because I can't do it every day. Like, I know, like, the past 2 days I've just been overloaded with information. My brain hurts. But that's okay. Then I know, okay, I got to pull back a little bit. But it's, I'm not perfect. It's not a perfect science.
No, I wonder about parents, current parents. and parents of future generations, if they struggle with it and some badly, they might not have the skill set to then train their children when they're younger about how, the social media, but more importantly, the web in general, is actually a tool that should enhance your life.
Correct.
You shouldn't become a slave to it. That's what I'm worried. Can it be taught to the young? It's up to the parents to do it, and it's just that the parents are struggling with it themselves. It's
the parents, the school system. There's a lot of pieces to that equation, right? So I think there's a lot more than just we have to be the example, right, and set the stage first. But the education system has to adopt it, excuse me. And I think over time we're going to see the incorporation of AI more into education and more into social media. So I think over the next 10 years, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with technology, with adapting to technology, evolving with technology, and how we interact with technology on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
It's going to look completely different, I think, in 10 years from now.
Yeah. There's one thing I do fear about, no, not fear is the wrong word. I suspect there's going to be a change in society, and I don't think it'll be for the better.
Okay.
I think that the arts are going to take a big hit. When I think about musicianship, the arts, it's such an organically human endeavor.
Mm-hmm.
It's working with our mind and our hands in congruence, right?
Yeah.
Which is different than what's kind of happening in the virtual world.
Mm-hmm.
It's still in the real reality.
Yeah, it's very tactical.
Yes, and I fear for those things being marginalized over time. I mean, not that I'm not
they're
saying
being marginalized now.
Yeah, I think we're going to lose something there.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Well,
I think we'll lose something, but it'll also elevate the people that remain creative or become creative.
For sure.
I think it'll allow
opportunity-wise.
It'll be opportunity-wise. But I do think we're seeing AI created art, AI created music. It's just amazing, right? So we are going to see something change.
You're so right, but it's amazing from the consumer of entertainment side. It's detrimental, I think, to the opportunities or for the idea for younger people to take up an instrument or take up the idea of creating art, because if AI is doing it now, like, why should I bother? I mean, people will still do it, Rocco. I'm just saying, maybe not on a broad basis. It'll be little pockets of it because it's really cool and exceptional and unique to some people. But that's not what we need. I think we need more people enjoying the arts. Not that you have to monetize it, but just enjoying it.
So what you just said there, I think the key, right? I think the people that are looking at the arts to monetize understand that AI is going to be a way for them to do that quicker, right? The people that are looking at the arts for the sake of the art will the ones that I think can still stay away from AI. I think we need more people to look at arts for the art's sake, not for the end value or the result or the monetary benefit of the art or the music. It's like, I just want to play music because it's fucking cool to play music.
Yeah.
I just want to feel what it's like to play. I don't want to be a rock star.
Yeah.
I don't want to sell records. So AI doesn't matter to me, right?
That's where I am as a human.
Correct. But that's kind of how I am too. Like, so if someone wants to paint, they want to paint because they just want to see their work and hang it in their house and be like, I painted that. Like, I did that with my hands. The people that want to create art to monetize it or create music to monetize it are going to say, yeah, like, I don't need to be that good. I can just use AI. And they're going to have a lot more people move into those industries for the sake of monetizing the industries, not for the creative discipline of the industry.
Yeah,
that's where the problem lies, I think.
Yeah, isn't that funny? Because what you just described is the creation now of two lanes within art.
Yeah, exactly.
The lane of monetization and the lane of
I look
doing it for enjoyment.
Well, it's consumer-based art or consumption-based art. Like, if I'm making it for consumers, it's one way. If I'm using it just to consume the consumption-based, I'm consuming it myself. Like, it's two different lanes I look at it. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's just different.
World's different, man.
It's different. Yeah, it's definitely different. And as a musician, it's changed so much. When I look at my specific industry and I kind of just reflect back on it, and The big fear 20 years ago was the Guitar Hero was going to, I thought it wasn't going to help guitar sales because it was giving the illusion of playing guitar. There were people who thought it would actually spur guitar sales because, it got people interested in holding this plastic thing and maybe I can do it for real. It didn't turn out that it helped. I mean, there's less, the industry's seeing less new guitar playing. I mean, they're doing everything they can. They encourage people to take it up, but that's just one example, I'm sure. But yeah, I mean, it's, I just think the arts is going to, as we know it, are going to take a hit.
I mean, just look at how music has evolved over the past 20 years, right? 20, 30 years ago, right? We didn't have the technology we have today to master and synthesize music like we do today. Now, anybody with a MacBook can create music, and good music, right? And put it on Spotify and make money. So the creation of music may not, because you see, like I watch people on Instagram and TikTok that have followings that they're literally DJs, but they create music from combining music together using computers, right? It's art, but it's not like we're not playing an instrument. It's not tactile art. It's very much, I'm using my brain and technology to make a new type of art. So I think it's just shifted already. It's going to be even more so of a shift 10, 20 years from now.
Yeah, I totally agree. I just hope that the organic nature of the creation, there's still a place for that in society at some point. You know what I mean? Like,
that's the beauty of the art. And I don't think that'll ever go away. I think there'll always be the traditionalists that do it for the sake of doing it. Like, I'm going to paint for the sake of painting. I'm going to play music for the sake of playing music. I think that may be a smaller portion of people. That's never going to go away.
Yeah, I hope not. One last thing before we go. I want to turn the subject back to one of your favorite topics.
Okay.
COVID.
Oh God.
Yeah, I knew that was going to be the response. But I want to come at it from this angle. Like, what I believe is that it was handled pretty much universally so poorly, this last thing, that it really did us long-term damage beyond vaccines, maybe not, or beyond like how we interact with each other. The damage I'm talking about is we had a pandemic, Rocco. Now, you listen to some scientists, they say, oh, it was pretty strong.
Yeah.
Some say it wasn't, but it really, I think we all can agree it wasn't going to change the course of mankind. If we were to get something much more severe than COVID, because it was handled so poorly by our government, we might not take the correct remediation when we really need it.
That's exactly right.
Because we're just skeptical of what happened prior, and it may really do damage to the entire population. That's my fear.
The boy who cried wolf.
Pretty much.
That's really what it is. Like,
pretty much.
That's how I look at it. It's like, you're 100% right. Like, we blew not saying it wasn't bad, but I think we blew something a little bit out of proportion, that when you look back at the statistics, like, it really wasn't bad at all. Like, the death rate was so low, and it was really the same as the flu. And there's been medical experts that have said it. It's just, when they actually look at the data in the correct way and extract it the right way, it was pretty much the same as a seasonal flu. So when you're right, like, if we do have something that is completely exponentially worse, I think it's going to be very hard to get people to comply with restrictions or any remedial measures, because I think people feel lied to. They feel lied to. They feel violated because
of the insanity.
Yeah, we felt like we did what we were supposed to do, and then we heard like, we were kind of just bullshitting you. We just didn't really know what we were doing, and
so we made some shit up,
and none of it worked. But we affected your life for years. And this, like, I'll never forget that point of my life. Like, my son graduated high school. He started his first year of college. My kids were at home. Like, the crazy stories, like, that is forever ingrained in my mind. Like, I'll be 90 years old and still remember that. Like, that'll impact us for the rest of our lives. So anytime we see something happen that's going to be worse than that, people are going to be like, I don't buy it. I don't buy it, because no one in government has been accountable for it. Who's been held accountable for this? No one. No one's lost a job. No one's done anything. Like, they got Trump out of office. That's it. Fauci's still around. Like, everyone that made all the wrong decisions, no one's accountable for all this shit that happened. So people are just like, what the fuck? Like, I'm not going to listen to you. Like, it's bullshit. Like, I think people are over it.
It can be very dangerous.
Completely dangerous. It is, because you hope nothing like that ever happens again, right? But if it does, it will be
a more severe virus.
Exactly. And to get people to do what needs to be done will be a very uphill battle, in my opinion.
Well, not to end on a sour note, but yeah. All right, partner.
It's sour, man.
Yeah.
At least I'm going to Vegas this weekend. That's good.
You're going, yeah. All right. Do I need to like change the date to the next?
No, I'm coming back Monday night.
We'll see. We'll see all you next Tuesday.
Yes.
All right. Thank you as usual.
Yes.
We're out.
We are.
I can end the show.